reimagined.
With me today is somebody who's pretty inspirational to me, a guy who's a real motivator, a real mover, a real shaker in town, and has run the whole gamut of the entire experience. Chuck Doyle, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on, John E Avocado? How you
I've been
doing,
trying to
big
pin you
guy?
down to get you to come and be on my show, so thanks for showing up. I appreciate it.
Oh man, anytime, man. It's my pleasure to be on the show.
Perfect. That's pretty great because, you know, what I do here on the show is I try to introduce folks to other people that are trying to make a difference in their life or that have really made a difference. And when I tout you, when I talk to folks, Chuck, it's not just lip service or just not a stroke on the back for somebody else's ego or just a name that I can drop. I truly understand and recognize the journey that you've traveled on and the difficulty that it was and what you have to offer back to the world. So when I think about this in a physiological or psychological term, I think of this in this three-step process of survivability, success, and significance. And so today I'd really like to try to explore those three aspects that I know have each a unique and distinct chapter in your life. And so the first one is that survivability. And this is kind of some of where your origin story is, you know, where you started, Chuck. And so, you know, would you tell everybody a little bit about, you know, what your story is? How did you start on what this journey is now that you have to share so much knowledge with everybody else?
Well, man, humble beginnings. You know, started out in the gangs and street life. You know what that brings? It's gonna bring some trouble. Court case after court case. Those court cases eventually turn to sentences, and you know, you end up doing a lot of time and you lose a lot. So yeah, it was definitely rough coming up, but you get tired of the same thing and you want to change. So what do you do to change, man? How do you change when you got everybody around you doing so much hurt and criminal activity? And I mean, you got your family members and your friends, and I mean, everything you know is how do you get out of that? That's the difference. You know what I'm saying?
So all of us learn to survive, you know, within the environment that we live in, right? That's that first step for all of us. We have to live through this day to make it to the next one. And so that where you started there gave you a pretty interesting or unique origin story for that survivability. And that survivability, unfortunately, was also part of your story is going to prison, right? And that unique experience that you had because you went pretty young, right?
I went when I was 14 years old, Johnny.
You went to prison at 14 years old to federal prison.
No, not federal. So basically, I caught a case when I was 14 years old. They locked me up. Of course, I was in a juvenile facility, but then things took a turn for the worse because the prosecuting attorney refused to switch the charges over to juvenile charges. So they kept them as adult charges. Even though I was in a juvenile facility, they were still considered adult charges. So after being found guilty of those charges, man, it's prison. And I was 15 years old when I actually landed foot on a prison yard. I had to stay in the hospital till I was 16 and pretty much protective custody because I was just, I guess, too young. But 16 years old, they booted me right on the yard and, you know, I had to learn. So it was rough. Life in my younger year was rough. A lot of people would easily give up, you know, living and going through a lot of the circumstances that I had to live through. But how do you escape that, Johnny? You know, you talk a lot about mindset. You spend a lot of your energy and focus on changing the mindset to a more of a positive vibe. And that's your biggest skill, learning how to use the mind. So that's what is that's definitely what it came down to, being that young and having to change something. But I did go back and forth. That wasn't the only time. It just set the stage. I ended up going back and forth to prison, in and out of the doors a couple times more, until I landed in federal prison. Federal prison kind of changed everything. Uh, I was in there with an individual who lost his whole family. He lost his whole family in a accident. Semi came over the line, fell asleep behind the wheel, and his whole family was coming to visit him in an RV. Well, that RV swerved off the road, rolled a couple of times, and killed everybody in the accident. Which, who do you think is gonna take the blame for that? You know, it tore that guy up. So that kind of changed me, watching him fold like that and realizing that he put his family in that predicament. So it just made me think, you know, what predicament am I putting my family in? And it just made me want to change. So I started looking at ways to change.
So that's that first step that we begin to identify between survival and success. So survival is that living through the day so that I can live to the next. Success is to live into the next day with intention, right? So this is where you began to make this change in your life, where you weren't just living day to day. You began to take control of your life. You wanted to live under your own determination, right? To this life of intention, as we sometimes speak. What was that? Before we get to that, let me go back to the prison because you know we can't just blow past this. Everybody's going to want to know about this. So I'm going to bring this back around for just a second. I'm going to bring a little levity to it. I want to know two things about your prison life. What is it that you learned from prison that you still carry with you today? What lesson, what story, what analogy that you discovered in prison is something that you still do today that is successful for
Get up early.
you? Get up early.
Get up early. You know the old saying, the early bird get the worm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in prison, the early bird get the worm, the stiff worm. So, you know, if you get caught slipping, the easiest way to get caught slipping is with your eyes closed. So when they pop those doors in the morning, you want to be up, because that's when those doors come open and anyone can come in any one of those rooms and shank you up, stab you up, or jump you. A lot of things, rape you. I mean, not saying that was going on in the prison systems that I was in, because I mean, I think that was more of a time before me, because during the prison systems that I went through, most of the crimes in there weren't sexual crimes. They were more violent crimes. You know, people trying to control the situations around them. And normally fear and violence is what follows when you're trying to set some sort of control. But yeah, it's definitely an experience, boy. It wasn't no joke. But with me being the youngest one on the yard, on my first visit, man, those guys were pretty much upset. A lot of those men seeing me so young, and they kind of pitied me more than anything, but they gave me a lot of game. You know, when you don't have any kids around you to grow up, and they would put it like this: there's no playing house in prison. You know, you're it's the hard knock. So they definitely put me up on a lot of game. But one thing I did notice is you start that cycle, it's hard to stop it. And you know, one prison term turned into another prison term, turned into another prison term, and you know, it just creates a revolving door that's so magnetically attractive that it's hard for you to break away from it. One of the reasons why it's so hard, Johnny, is because you got family and friends and everything you know becomes so tied up into this life that you're so used to that it just becomes hard to let it go. A lot of people don't want to let certain things go. Well, this last number, man, it took me away from everything. And the experiences I experienced on this last trip, it changed me forever. One of the biggest things that I can reflect on during that prison journey is the last actual institution that I was in. It was a group of guys. These guys were pretty intimidating guys because they were worth a lot of money. So they pretty much ran the institution as inmates. They had a lot of access to a lot of things that average inmates didn't have access to. But I guess since I was the hustler on the yard and I really wasn't affiliated with any gang on the yard, because man, I was the hustler. I would braid hair, I made cards, I made food. I mean, I did so many different kind of hustles that everyone came to me. I didn't have a set group of people coming because, oh, we can't mess with him because he's this or he's that. Everyone came to me. And I guess these individuals, they liked that. And it made them more interested in me than anything. So I was invited to one of their meetings, and one thing led to another. I was intimidated into a position of where I wasn't really supposed to speak in this meeting. But they gave me Think and Grow Rich. They gave me a book by Napoleon Hill, and they told me to read it refusively. They told me to not ever stop reading that book. It's not a book to read once. It's not a book to read for the enjoyment of saying, "Hey, I read this cool book." It's to be taken as a textbook. I was told to read it as a textbook and to implement it in my life so much to where I don't realize that it's actually being implemented into my life. And I don't know, man. I'm a true believer that if you really want something bad enough, all you got to do is put yourself in a position to get it. And that sign that's glowing back there on the wall, I got to give a lot of that credit to that book. You know what I'm saying? Because it set me on the path of reading books, set me on the path of self-education. And all of that came from this group of men that wanted to see if they could take just an average Joe off the yard and and transform them. You know what I'm saying? And man, I made a transformation. My family, friends who know me, they can all say, there's a big transformation in that guy. So yeah.
Well, I think they'd be pretty proud to say that they know who you are now. So that's a hell of a change for you. That's a hell of a story, Chuck. Man, it's hard to follow that up with the next question, where I just want to blast it down into the next chapter of your life, because it wasn't that easy as well. But the book was the crux for you. I mean, that was one for me as well. I mean, and as you said, it's not just a book that you read. It's not just informational. It's a textbook. It's a manual. And if you recognize and understand the concepts that Napoleon Hill teaches you about auto hypnosis and self suggestion, the power of word, it was truly fundamental to the psychology that we use in everyday self help now. Whether you're a coach or you're a positive psychologist or whatever you might call yourself, a motivational speaker, you use this basic understanding that Napoleon Hill had gathered all that time back. And it's all about how to teach you to teach yourself new habits. He understood that crux of change and how some of those things were made within our mind. And although they didn't know the science that we do now, he understood the leverage that you had to apply and where to apply it. And he was able to put that in this book. And if you read it as from cover to cover and do as he says, it's pretty phenomenal, the transformation that you can get out of it.
It definitely is, man. Um, it's crazy because like the guy said, you will start implementing that book into your life, and it will start changing the way you process, the way you view people, things, events, and it will start molding you into the person that you want to become. So I want to be this rich guy, right? I
Yes.
want I want to be the successful, uh, made it from rags to riches kind of story guy. Uh, so I definitely stay busy.
So
And
that takes me into the next part of your story here, the middle part, your success, right?
yes,
So after you've read this book and you started to make this transformation, you found some success. You found success in life, you found success in business, you found success in finance. Can you tell me a little bit about those? I mean, I know basically the way I would describe it is that you took your life into your own hands and you started to live a life of intention. You dream, plan, and do. You decide what you want to do. You figure out how you're going to go do it. If that includes educating yourself or learning a new skill or learning what it is that you're even trying to figure out, you get that information and then you go ahead and then you apply that information. You're a doer as well. So you follow through all three of those steps. And what the term that I use then is that purpose your passion. If you find the things that you like to do, it's easy to take you through all three of those steps. And so, with a little bit of this help from the book that Napoleon Hill gave to you through his book, you started to do this for yourself. And so, what were some of your first successes? What are some of the things that you really did once you started to make your transformation that was fundamentally different and changing for you?
well, I went to school. That was the first thing. I said, when I get out, I'm going to school. So what do you go to school for? I mean, I didn't know. I mean, I had no clue. I knew you can go to school for trades. You can go to school for a lot of things. But then I got to thinking. I got to think differently than what I would normally think when I was out here on the streets before. So I started thinking the opposite of what I would normally think. If I would think simple, I would think harder. If I would think harder on something, I would just make it a little simple. So I just figured if I really, really want to go in school and do something that's going to sell me as an individual, I have to learn marketing. I have to figure out a way to market, because if I can market one thing, I can market any and everything else. So I went to school for marketing. And I got a degree in business and science marketing back in 2011. Um, I mean, you get a degree, everyone can get it's. I mean, it's not really hard to maintain a schedule and go to school and get a simple degree. I didn't
Oh,
go to a 10 year.
don't sell yourself short on that, Chuck.
No,
The what it
I,
takes to put it together, to get the transportation, to take care of the rest of your life, to come up with the finances, to make the time. It all takes work. It all takes effort. It all takes dedication.
and I'm
Don't
not
ever undermine what
and
you're.
I'm not undermining it like that. I'm just saying it's not like I was going for a PhD. I went and got a simple associate's degree in marketing, which to the average person, it was simple. It was just, oh, he got a little small degree. But to me, it wasn't simple. To me, it was, I achieved something that I
Mhm.
said I was going to achieve. So I said, well, now that I got marketing, I mean, I can do anything with it. So the best thing to do is do something you like. I love electricity. I love electrical work. So I tried to stay in the electrical field. I didn't really know where I was going to go with it, how I was going to work it. I just knew that with my marketing, I needed to stay in the electrical field. I needed to find some sort of route that I can market in this field. So uh, I started getting the local jobs that had, electrical job here, lighting job here, learning the area, because I'm really not from the area. I'm originally from Omaha, Nebraska. Born in Chicago, Illinois, raised in Omaha, Nebraska. I moved here back in '08. So I really didn't know a lot that was going on around here. So I utilized those pipeline jobs to get around and find my way around and learn the economic area, which was important to know. See, you could be smart and know how to do everything, or you can be smart and know how to utilize other people who know how to do those things. And that's basically what I figured that I could do. And I pretty much did it. My credit was bad. I'm a felon with a record. How do I end up with my own business? You know, I scouted the area, so I know how to get around now. So that's not an excuse, you know. So we keep coming up with these excuses why we don't want to jump. And I just started closing those gaps to where there were no excuses I could make. Well, to shorten this story, and I'm not going to call any names out, but I was working for a particular individual, and this guy, he I guess he caught wind around the city that I was starting my own company. But at the time, I wasn't starting my own company. It was just an idea. People would run around and say, "Hey, man, you're so good with people. You should start your own company." Well, in the back of my mind, I already knew that I wanted to start my own company and I was going to eventually start it. I just didn't know what it was going to be yet. I knew it was going to be something in the electrical field. I just didn't know what part, what section, what genre in electricity. I was currently working the lighting though. So this guy approached me and he pulled up on me on one of the job sites, and he called me to the car, didn't even get out the car, you know, and just called me over, and he was like, "Hey man, can I talk to you for a minute?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he said, "I heard you were talking about starting your own company." You know, and I kind of looked at him, and I didn't want to say, "Well, yeah, it was an idea. You know, I have been thinking about it, and I am going to eventually make some sort of leap of faith, but I'm just not sure what that is yet." But I didn't say all that. I just simply just told him, "Look, uh, man, I'm a felon. Take a lot of money, take credit." I said it take a lot to it takes a lot to start your own business and run a business, Russ. And guy basically was like, "Yeah, you're right. What am I thinking? You know, I'm tripping. I'm sorry I bother you. Go back to work. Don't even worry about it." And rolled off. And for a minute, I kind of like felt a pause, like, he rolled up on me, but then it kind of settled, you know, and that settle hit me like another life-changing moment. This
Mhm.
man said I couldn't, you know, even with me backing it up by saying I never said I couldn't do it. I just basically brought out the obstacles that I would have
Oh,
to go through to reach that goal. And he topped it off by slapping me in the face by basically saying, "This is something that this guy can't do. What am I tripping on?" And just rolled off in the wind. And I'm like, that moment, John E Avocado, that moment was the
yeah,
moment when I said, "It's on.
it's
It
on.
is on. It is on." And I went to work. Started took about 2.5 weeks trying to create the logo. I had a little help. One of my real good friends, he 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 basically he basically told me, "Nope, I wouldn't use that one. I wouldn't use that one." And then I hit this one, and he said, "Yeah, that's the one." So it took a minute for that, but part of the marketing and training, I was able to blend colors and shapes, and it's catchy. I like it.
Yeah, I
And that
like
put
it, man. This stands out. That's a really good logo.
it put it in my heart, and I said I have to stand by this symbol now. I have to stand behind it, and I have to make sure that this thing has a great a name, a great texture. And in order to keep the texture, you have to work hard to do it. So we've been going strong ever since. And you keep planting seeds and things will grow. So I kept planting seeds, and I didn't stop there, Johnny. I didn't stop here. I went back
No,
to the book. What book am I talking about?
Oh yeah, Napoleon Hills. Yes,
I
sir.
went, I went back to the book. I said, "It's something else in here for me. It's something else in here for me." And I know you know about the Mastermind Association. It's a very, very, very intriguing part of the book. Uh, so much common sense is in this section, and I know it works. And I know my colleagues know it works because we're in business together because of it. I was able to utilize the Mastermind Association idea of Napoleon Hills to create, excuse me, to create my own investment group called TAMIC. And it's the acronym for the American Mastermind Investment Club.
All right.
Uh, since we've been since we've been uh, an organization, we've been in business for about a year and a half now. We've already been able to take one of our members and create a business, take one of his business ideas and help him launch his business. And that group, we basically deal with real estate, stock market, and taking business ideas and members of the group and creating more business owners out of us. So financially free and buying our time back is our goal in that group,
Yeah.
which leads me to that production company that we started. That not us. Let me take that back because the credit does not go to us. The credit goes to the gentleman that uh, spent a lot of his hard-earned time utilizing his creativity to create something uh, that's been able to provide a lot of services to a lot of other people, and that's the No Solutions Production Company, which is the production company that also produces my podcast, The First Cup KC. So we were able to get that off the ground, and I'm pretty sure here in the 2022 year, we'll be able to get a couple other things launched off the ground. So this is definitely a different life. It's
Man,
definitely
that leads right into the third chapter of your life I want to talk about. The third chapter of anybody's life, if we go through these stages, is the stage of significance. So that mastermind group allowed you to really kind of cap off what you were doing to find success for yourself, and you began to start to share that success with those around you, the folks that you thought had the opportunity to try to invest with you, that could do it, would work with you, or would work as hard alongside you as you did with ideas and creativity and following through. So that steps into this third aspect of our life, this significance, this legacy. And so I can see what you're writing for yourself already. Uh, and with that is part of this coffee cup Chuck. And so with Coffee Cup Chuck, I can see that you've created this persona for yourself, and you're out there every day. You're spreading a word, and you get riled up, and I love it so much because you come out of the gate every Monday and you don't stop swinging all through the weekend long. You're trying to push positivity to folks. You want people to try to, not necessarily that you know the answer, but you want them to engage in their own thoughts. You want to try to get people to think for themselves, just like you were forced to think for yourself. And at
right.
the beginning there, you kind of went off the rails, where you just went the opposite, where you would make simple things hard and hard things simple, because you wanted that drastic of change, that much diametric, so that you could easily identify what was and wasn't working. Totally a very amazing, deep engineering principle that you self evolved through your own thought process. A lot of these mechanics and devices that we talk about in psychology, or even in the positive thought spectrum, it's not anything new or anything that we didn't understand. We just now have a better comprehensive understanding of how all these things work together, how they work in unison, and how they truly have effect on ourselves. Everything from the idea of autosuggestion and self-hypnosis to build a better habit for ourselves, to building a mastermind group, so that where I don't have the skills or the part that I need, I can plug in or tap into other individuals that have those. That's that one thing where you and I began to talk that one time. one of the greatest mastermind that you're ever going to put yourself into is when you find a mate. And you don't want to find somebody who is the same person that you are. You need to find somebody who's probably a complement to you. You're not supposed to complete one another. You're supposed to complement each other. You fill in one another's holes a little bit so that as a group you become stronger. You support one another or carry one another when you have to. But our greatest advantage to one another is to support one another in a way that we couldn't be supported on our own. So with the mastermind group, you totally set yourself down this path already in a great deal of significance by sharing your success. But talk to me a little bit about this coffee cup Chuck. What has compelled you to come out so strong with this, to really try to put yourself out into the world again when you have to answer all these questions every time about what's this about prison? What was this thing you did? Why did you get there? Why do you feel or get encouragement for yourself, which I know you do, by sharing your story and engaging with other folks to get them to share their story or reflect on themselves?
Well, it's simple. When people count you out, and people count you out, and you're written off for dead. Oh, that guy, he's a troublemaker. He's been in prison a bunch of times. Life's over for him. Stay away from that guy. He's bad news. You start realizing that. How do you erase that? And the easiest way for me to erase it is to prove everybody that that's not me, that's not what I want. And that's what lifted me to change who I was. And I was able to do it. I was able to bounce back. And it is rare. It doesn't happen. And it doesn't happen. And it's not televised, or it's not, the attention isn't spotlighted to a point where we believe that there is a way, or there are options, or this isn't the end, and for me to be able to watch myself transform into something totally different, and I'm able to actually delete, not so to speak, delete where I came from, but that life, that part of me isn't me anymore. A lot of people don't believe that they can reach that level. A lot of people don't believe that they can come out of it, that they can change their lives, and that it's possible. Well, man, I'm just saying, if I could do it, I have to be able to let other people know that they can do it too. And I think that's why I spend so much time reflecting on the past and bringing it up for everyone to know, because the average person wouldn't really want to share the type of experiences that I've experienced in my life. A lot of people will want to keep that type of thing silent, but I think my message is more, hey, get up. Those are excuses. Okay, so what? You jacked up, you messed up. All right, well, it's not the end, because you're still here, you're still breathing, and you can definitely do somebody some good. So get up off your butt and just do things differently. And I get up every morning. I get up every morning. I post my cups. I post those cups because they're motivative. And I try to get them out first thing in the morning, because we need it first thing in the morning. And like I told you, in prison, best thing I took away from prison was what? Getting up early. So I get up early every day. I don't use an alarm clock. I get up and I do those cups because I want to help others. That's why I do it, to help others remember that you can change, you can live a better life. You don't have to always view things this way. Let's view things this way today. Or let's talk about this today. Oh, you forgot this. Guess what? Old Coffee Cup Chuck's here to remind you today. And those are my messages, and that's why I put those messages out there. Most of that inspiration comes from the lovely woman in my life that actually makes those cups. And she goes out of her way to process. It's a process to put those cups together, and she puts those cups together too. So it's it's so many ways, so many reasons I can sit here and tell you why I do the inspirational thing. And man, we can go through a whole nother interview session. But I do it because I want to see people live better lives, because I know that if someone out there is living a better life because of me, that means I'm living my best life. So uh, keep kicking that positivity, man. That's what it's about, man. Positivity.
Perfect, Chuck. I mean, and you are so full of it. I mean, that's why I love to talk to you all the time, because it doesn't matter what day. I don't think there's an entire day, no matter what day you've had or how bad it's been, that when you and I talk, that no matter what it was that you went through your day, you're still looking at the next moment with positivity. How can I make that next moment better, and make it a good, make it be the outcome I want it to be? Because if I have control of it, which is the thing I think, which is why you have such, and I myself have such a positive outlook on the future, is because I recognize that I have control of it, and I have educated myself how and where. And you have done the same for yourself. And I'd like to maybe close out the interview here about on a point that you really hit that I don't get with a lot of other interviewees. And this is why I really wanted to talk to you, because you've lived this whole process. You've lived this whole 3 chapter spectrum that most of us are just trying to get to, this survival, success, and significance. And you spoke on the idea of about somebody not thinking that they could ever live another life, or that it could be different for them, or to outrun the life that they'd had to live before, or what words or metaphors you'd ever want to use for that. And I want to talk about that for just a minute, because I myself recognize and understand that, having had change and started over again and again, that it's almost like whole and separate in different lives. It's a matter of perspective, and you don't ever run away from or leave that other life behind. You just live so much of a different life that it's so much more and bigger than this other life you had lived before. Do you get some of that, Chuck? I mean, that's what I see in you, man.
Yeah, man, I get it. Have you ever had a moment where you're getting ready for work and you just happen to look up at the mirror, and you don't look in the mirror the same at this moment as you normally look? This time it's a little different. This time you're looking inside of you. You're not looking at the exterior. And inside you get to a point where you're like, are you still in there? Is that you? Are you still with me? Is this a totally different me? And then you start realizing that that little kid, that little small boy that wanted to grow up to be all of these great things, that didn't see all those crashes and wrecks along the way. You didn't think you would make it across the street, but then you look in that mirror and you come back to that outer person, and it's you, same person, the same person. And it's like you keep moving, you snap out of it, and you finish getting dressed. And I have those moments a lot, because it reminds me that, like you just said, no matter what, you don't change. You just become who you're supposed to be. And to this day, I'm still not the person that I'm going to be tomorrow. I'm still becoming the person. But sometimes we get stranded on these levels, and we think we are supposed to stay there. And it just gets hard to get off those levels. So I am changing. And for the people out there who kind of get an understanding of what I'm saying, don't be scared to change. People will stop you from changing, or people will make you feel like what you're doing or what you're trying to change, but guess what? It is a must that I change. You know why, Johnny? Because everything changes. Everything. Nothing is supposed to stay the same. We are meant as creatures to evolve, and everything around us evolves. The way we think, the way we act, the way we live, the foods we eat, the people we mingle with. I mean, pretty much everything changes. So you just got to make a positive change.
Yes, sir. Stay in control of that change, man, and do make it your change. Live that life of intention instead of circumstance.
Exactly.
Well, I'll tell you what, Chuck. I mean, I can't thank you enough for being on my podcast, and I can't thank you enough for spreading your positive message as often as you do, and as hard and as much as you do. I look forward to it all the time. It always gets me going, and I know lots of other folks get their week and their day started as well. So keep it coming, Chuck. Keep it coming at us. Let's. What's your podcast? You want to call it out for everybody?
Yep, it is the First Cup KC, spelled all out in words, no numerals. The First Cup KC, that's on Facebook, it's on Instagram. You can find me at Chuck Doyle on LinkedIn. I'm also on YouTube and Spotify under the First Cup KC. Join me Monday through Friday. Every morning I post a positive blog. Get on there, like it, follow it, share it. The more you share, the more you care. And no matter what, stay positive, people.
Stay positive. There you go. So I'm John E Avocado with the Purpose Your Passion podcast, and we were here with Chuck Doyle, helping us stay positive. I encourage you all to dream, plan, and do. We'll see you guys next time.
Reimagine.